From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the shortwave facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media or Voice of America on the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, and this is Dateline Malacañang. Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. is calling on government-owned and controlled corporations, or GOCCs, to tighten fiscal discipline after remitting 140 billion pesos in dividends to the national government. A windfall, he says, will boost public services without raising new taxes. At the 2026 GOCC Day in Malacañang, the President said the strong dividend performance proves that sound governance directly benefits ordinary Filipinos. Under the dividend law, GOCCs must remit at least 50% of their annual net earnings. This year, 50 GOCCs declared 147.15 billion pesos, with 140 billion already turned over as of July 8th, surpassing last year's total after the Department of Finance, or DOF, pushed for a higher 75% remittance target. President Marcos said the collections can bankroll major government priorities, from building nearly 40,000 classrooms to providing 165,000 housing units to constructing up to 9,300 kilometers of farm-to-market roads. But he reminded GOCCs that while some are designed to generate revenue, profit must never overshadow their public service mandate. The chief executive urged GOCCs to modernize operations, embrace innovation, and eliminate inefficiencies, stressing that public funds must be managed wisely, transparently, and with intention. GOCC Day is observed annually to recognize state-owned firms' contributions to nation building, particularly through dividend remittances, a major source of non-tax revenue for the government.
And every peso that you have remitted strengthens the government's capacity to deliver better services without imposing additional tax burdens on ordinary Filipinos. It is proof that sound governance and fiscal responsibility can create opportunities for our people while sparing them from bearing greater financial sacrifice. Recognizing this, the Department of Finance encouraged our GOCCs to raise their dividend remittances to 75% in 2024. It was an ambitious target, one that demanded discipline, efficiency, and a strong commitment to the highest standards of public stewardship. I am pleased that the response from our GOCCs has shown that such standards are within our reach. As of this month, dividend collections have surpassed those of the previous year. We have received approximately 139.8 billion pesos from 50 GOCCs. These are resources that can build nearly 40,000 classrooms for children, provide around 165,000 homes for Filipino families, construct roughly 8,700 to 9,300 kilometers of farm-to-market roads that connect our farmers and fisherfolk to their markets. While some GOCCs are created to generate revenue and ensure financial sustainability, may you never lose sight of the reason that you exist. Your foremost mandate is that of public service. Profit is never the end in itself. It is just a means to better serve our people. And that is why I challenge every GOCC to continue modernizing your systems, embracing innovation, and eliminating inefficiencies wherever they may exist. At the same time, let us remain steadfast in practicing fiscal discipline. Public resources must never be treated as privileges to be spent, but as responsibilities to be managed wisely, transparently, and intentionally.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. says wage boards across the country are now reviewing possible salary adjustments with recommendations expected by September or October. During a visit to Pulilan in Bulacan Province, the president told reporters that the regional tripartite wage boards are closely monitoring prices and economic conditions in their respective areas to determine whether current wage rates remain fair or if increases are warranted. The chief executive noted that the boards work continuously, assessing real-time market conditions to ensure wage decisions reflect the situation on the ground. President Marcos cited the recently approved 85 peso daily minimum wage increase for workers in Metro Manila as an example of how wage boards respond to economic realities. The National Capital Region, or NCR, adjustment will be released in two tranches, 60 pesos on July 19th and 25 pesos on January 20th of 2027. This raises the daily minimum wage to 780 pesos for non-agriculture workers and 743 pesos for agricultural workers and small retail or service establishments with 15 or fewer employees. The president said regional boards are still completing their assessments, and once finished, government will release the results along with their recommendations. He emphasized that wage adjustments must strike a balance, providing better support for workers while considering the economic conditions unique to each region.
Ang tripartite wage board, regional tripartite wage board, patuloy yan, hindi tumitigil yan. Patuloy na tinitignan at inaaral kung ano ba ang talagang presyuhan doon sa bawat region para malagay na tama ang ating wage rate o wage, kung kailangan ng wage hike, kung magkano. Ang nauna ay na NCR 85 pesos ang naging wage hike natin, at ito ay isa na sa buong kasaysayan ng Pilipinas ang pinakamaraming pagtaas ng wages dito lalo na sa Metro Manila ay sa nakaraang 4 na taon nakapag-sobra na tayo sa 200 pesos lahat-lahat. Ang susunod ay sa mga region pero matagal pa yan, mga September, October pa yung mga iba. Kaya pagka natapos na sila sa kanilang pag-aaral, ay lalabas na rin natin yung ating mga naging resulta at kung ano ang rekomendasyon ng ating tripartite wage board sa iba't ibang region para titignan natin na maganda ang magiging makatulong natin sa ating mga mamamayan na nagtatrabaho. At yan ang pinaka-importante sa lahat.
Was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. met with top executives of Amazon Web Services, or AWS, in Malacañang to discuss a major investment proposal that could bring up to $5 billion into the Philippines over the next 15 years. The centerpiece of the plan is the possible establishment of an AWS region, a network of data centers that would allow the company to deliver cloud services directly from within the country. The move aligns with the administration's push to accelerate digital transformation and position the Philippines as a regional hub for digital infrastructure. According to the Presidential Communications Office, or PCO, the proposed investment would significantly boost the nation's digital backbone, enabling faster, more secure, and more reliable cloud services for businesses, startups, and government agencies. If approved, the project is expected to generate thousands of high-value jobs and strengthen the country's competitiveness in key digital sectors such as artificial intelligence, data analytics, cybersecurity, e-commerce, and digital government services. The meeting underscores the administration's strategy to attract global tech players and expand the Philippines' role in the region's rapidly growing digital economy.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. welcomed former British Prime Minister Tony Blair to Malacañang on Wednesday, marking their fifth publicly known meeting since the president assumed office in 2022. The two leaders discussed governance, public policy, and the continuing collaboration between the Philippine government and the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change. In a statement posted across his social media accounts, the chief executive said it was a pleasure to host Blair once again, noting the former UK leader's enduring influence on global policy conversations. President Marcos highlighted Blair's long tenure as one of Britain's most prominent prime ministers and his ongoing work through the Tony Blair Institute, which has become a key partner of the Philippine government in advancing governance reforms. Blair's latest visit forms part of the Institute's sustained engagement with the Marcos Jr. administration. The organization has been working closely with Philippine officials on digital transformation, public sector modernization, and strengthening institutional capacity, efforts aimed at improving government efficiency and service delivery. The Institute has also supported initiatives to enhance policy implementation across agencies, particularly in areas where digital tools and modern governance frameworks can accelerate reforms. Wednesday's meeting underscores the administration's push to collaborate with global experts and institutions as it pursues long-term improvements in governance, technology adoption, and public service performance.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang has announced a major addition to President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s inner circle. Former Interior Secretary Benhur Abalos Jr. has been appointed Cabinet Secretary. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro confirmed the appointment on Wednesday, saying Abalos would take his oath in the afternoon. As Cabinet Secretary, Abalos will serve as a key advisor to the President, providing timely, strategic guidance on emerging national, local, and international issues that shape the country's political landscape. Castro said he will also act as a conduit between the president and a wide range of stakeholders, national agencies, local governments, political groups, civil society organizations, and sectoral representatives on matters requiring political coordination. Abalos will head the Strategic Action and Response Office, exercising supervision and control over its constituent offices. His appointment raises questions about structure. The office of the Cabinet Secretary was abolished on June 30, 2022, under Executive Order No. 1, which reorganized the Office of the President and placed the Cabinet Secretariat under the Presidential Management Staff. Malacañang has yet to clarify whether a new executive order has been issued to formally reconstitute the office. Abalos previously served as Interior and Local Government Secretary beginning June 2022, where he led major police reforms, anti-illegal drug campaigns, and capacity-building programs for local governments. He stepped down in October 2024 to run for the Senate under the administration coalition in the 2025 elections, finishing 16th in the race.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. administered the oath on Wednesday to former Development Bank of the Philippines or DBP chairperson Philip Lo, who assumed the post of Secretary of the Office of the Presidential Assistant for the Visayas or OPAV. Lo took on the role of the President's representative in the Visayas, overseeing the implementation and monitoring of priority government programs and projects across the region. His office also coordinated with national agencies and local governments to ensure the administration's initiatives were carried out efficiently. Before entering government service, Lo served in the private sector as chairperson of Coast Pacific Group of Companies and Toyota Mabolo Cebu Incorporated. The OPAV functioned as Malacañang's coordinating arm in the Visayas, helping bridge the Office of the President with regional stakeholders to fast-track development programs. President Marcos also swore in lawyer Nesauro Firme as an ad interim member of the Judicial and Bar Council or JBC, representing the academe. The JBC continued to serve as the constitutional body responsible for screening and nominating candidates for vacancies in the judiciary and in the offices of the Ombudsman and Deputy Ombudsman. The oath-taking ceremonies were held in Malacañang.
Dateline Malacañang.
Around 3,000 families in Muntinlupa City received 10 kilograms of quality rice each on Wednesday under First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos's socio-civic program Mula sa Puso para sa Pamilya. The rollout marked the initiative's second distribution in the city following its launch on May 6th, led by President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. During the event at the Muntinlupa Sports Center, the First Lady delivered assistance on behalf of the President and checked on the condition of residents. The beneficiaries represented several sectors: 600 women and children under the Gender and Development Office, 200 senior citizens and solo parents assisted by the Social Services Department, 1,215 members of the Urban Poor Affairs Office, and 1,261 beneficiaries from ESC, Kabalikat, and local fisherfolk groups. Muntinlupa Mayor Rufy Biazon expressed appreciation for the First Lady's return to the city and acknowledged the national government support through the Local Government Support Fund, which he said enables local governments to implement projects that directly benefit communities. Among the recipients was Pearly Garcia, who claimed the rice assistance for her ailing 68-year-old father, a retired overseas Filipino worker or OFW. She welcomed the government support and hoped similar programs would continue, while also appealing for additional aid for retired OFWs who have yet to receive their benefits. Gender and Development Office staff member Lovely Ann Palting noted that the rice distribution would help ease the burden on vulnerable families amid rising prices of basic goods. Also present was San Juan Mayor Francis Zamora, a national president of the League of Cities of the Philippines, who emphasized the importance of the LGSF in helping local governments carry out community programs. Beneficiaries later joined a raffle featuring prizes such as sacks of rice cookers, digital TV boxes, grocery packages, and a Google television set.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Wednesday, Malacañang said that Vice President Sara Duterte's brief appearance on the second day of her impeachment trial did not meet public expectations, noting that many Filipinos were looking for her to directly confront the allegations rather than rely on procedural defenses. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro reported that Duterte's short statement to the media did not address the accusations against her. Castro said the vice president appeared to frame the proceedings as a personal ordeal, but the public remained focused on hearing her response to the charges. Castro added that while Duterte's legal team may be pursuing its own strategy, sentiment on the ground reflects a desire for the vice president to personally refute the allegations instead of leaning heavily on technical arguments. She noted that Duterte's appearance before the Senate was welcomed by many and observed that her latest remarks drew from a legitimate literary source, a shift from previous statements that critics claimed were based on misinformed views about the administration.
Okay, nadinig po natin ang kanyang binanggit at sa ating palagay marami rin naman natuwa na siya ay pumunta sa Senado at nabanggit ang kanyang mga kataga dahil sa hindi natin alam kung sa unang pagkakataon ba to ay nagkaroon siya ng basihan ng kanyang sinabi. Ating nadinig at napanood na sinabi niyang in this bloodbath, in this bludgeoning, I will be blooded but unbowed. So, meron siya naging basihan at nakita rin natin to sa social media. Mula kay William Ernest Henley ng Invictus. So, kinatuwa natin na sa ngayon ay may nagiging basihan na si Vice Presidente ng kanyang mga sinasabi. Well, anyway, feeling niya na bloodbath ito at alam naman natin na ito ang kanyang hiniling. Siya mismo ang nagnanais ng isang bloodbath. But sa kanyang maiksing salita, kahapon ay wala pa rin tayong nadinig na pagtanggi sa mga akusasyon na ibinabato sa kanya. At hinahayaan na lamang niya ang abogado niya at ito naman ay malamang na kanilang strategy. At hindi pa naman talaga kinakailangan ang presensya ng Vice Presidente sa nasabing hearing kahapon. Pero mas nanaisin siguro ng taong bayan na madinig mismo kay Vice Presidente ang pagtanggi ng mga akusasyon sa kanya, hindi lang puro technicalities ang ginagawang depensa. At tulad sa sinabi sa Invictus, kung yun po ang kanyang iniisip at kanyang opinyon ay hindi naman natin siya mapapahinto sa kanyang pagsasalita patungkol dito. At magiging madugo talaga to kung hindi makikita ng taong bayan ang katotohanan. At yan naman ang hinahanap ng ating mga kababayan, malaman ano ba talaga ang mga katotohanan sa mga ibinabato sa kanya.
Castro also defended the legality of the impeachment proceedings after Duterte's camp sought relief from the Supreme Court. She said constitutional experts have affirmed that the current setup is consistent with the Constitution, which does not require the Senate President alone to preside over an impeachment trial.
Sa ating pagkakaalam, ito naman ay naaayon din naman sa konstitusyon. At marami rin na mga legal luminaries, isama na natin si dating Supreme Court Justice Ascuna na sinabi na ito naman ay naaayon din naman sa konstitusyon dahil walang particular na sinasabi na bawal ang hindi Senate President ang mag-preside sa isang impeachment trial. So, karapatan naman po nila na tumakbo sa Supreme Court at ano po ba ang kinakatakot nila if ever kung isang abogado ang nakaupo bilang presiding officer ng impeachment.
Senator Francis Escudero was elected presiding officer as the Senate convened as an impeachment court to try Duterte on charges including culpable violation of the Constitution, bribery, graft and corruption, betrayal of public trust, and alleged misuse of confidential funds. Escudero assumed the role to allow Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian to focus on legislative priorities such as the national budget.
Dateline Malacañang.
Malacañang said Wednesday that the Marcos Jr. administration is expanding government interventions to help cushion the impact of declining employment and support workers affected by global economic pressures. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro reported that the government is closely monitoring labor market conditions after the latest labor force survey showed 2.5 million unemployed Filipinos in May, an increase from both April 2026 and May 2025. Castro said the administration had anticipated the dip in employment due to external factors, including the global oil crisis and its effects on key sectors such as agriculture. She emphasized that agencies have been implementing measures to ease the burden on affected workers and families. According to Castro, the government has rolled out various forms of assistance, including programs aimed at reducing fuel costs for vulnerable sectors like fisherfolk. She said agencies continue to provide aid and implement interventions designed to mitigate the impact of global economic pressures on livelihoods. Castro added that discussions on cushioning the effects of international conflicts, including those in the Middle East, had already been underway even before tensions escalated, allowing the government to prepare early responses.
Atin din pong nakausap mismo ang tungkol dito dahil nakita po kahit nagkaroon po talaga ng pagbaba ng sa employment rate dahil ito po naman ay talagang inasahan dahil nga po naging reason ang global oil crisis. Kahit po sa parte ng agrikultura, although hindi po natin alam, dahil may naibalita rin po ang PSA, na merong bumaba na employment patungkol po sa agrikultura. Pero tinitignan din po ito ni Secretary Kiko Laurel, anong sektor? Dahil talaga pong malaki rin po ang naging epekto ng naging kaguluhan sa Middle East, sa ating mga kababayan. Kaya nga po tuloy-tuloy ang pagtulong at pagbibigay ng ayuda sa ating mga kababayan dahil inaasahan po talaga na maaapektuhan ang mga employment ng ating mga kababayan.
Data from the Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA showed the May unemployment figure rising to 2.5 million, up from 2.03 million in May 2025 and 2.41 million in April 2026. The employment rate stood at 95.2%, with 49.63 million Filipinos employed, slightly lower than the 95.3% recorded in April and the 96.1% posted a year earlier.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, the Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, said it will ramp up efforts to generate more quality jobs after May labor data showed higher employment and a sharp drop in underemployment. The Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, reported 49.63 million Filipinos employed in May, up by 740,000 from April. Underemployment fell to 12.2%, with 1.16 million fewer workers seeking extra hours or additional jobs. Unemployment, however, rose year-on-year to 4.8%, or 2.5 million jobless Filipinos, compared to 3.9% in May last year. Labor Secretary Francis Tolentino said the Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, is expanding job facilitation, skills development, and livelihood programs, including stronger labor education for students, more Trabaho Agad job fairs, deeper coordination with Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA, and entrepreneurship support under Tulong Panghanapbuhay sa Ating Disadvantaged or Displaced Workers, or TUPAD. He added that the Philippines' new upper middle income status presents an opportunity to push for better quality employment and higher workforce productivity. DOLE will continue working with employers, schools, local governments, and development partners to ensure economic growth translates into more inclusive and decent work under the Bagong Pilipinas Agenda.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. placed government agencies on full alert on Wednesday as Super Typhoon Inday, internationally known as Mavi, entered the Philippine Area of Responsibility, or PAR. The President closely monitored developments and directed the full mobilization of government resources to ensure nationwide preparedness. Palace Press Officer Claire Castro said the President remained focused on the evolving weather situation and instructed the public to stay vigilant and follow official advisories. Government agencies began implementing preemptive measures. The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, cleared drainage systems and waterways, especially in areas obstructed by garbage. All 73 MMDA pumping stations were activated to mitigate flooding from rains enhanced by the southwest monsoon, which may intensify as Inday moves closer. The Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, pre-positioned heavy equipment, including trucks, backhoes, and chainsaws, particularly in Cagayan Valley, to enable rapid response if the super typhoon affects the region. The Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, stockpiled over 4.7 million family food packs nationwide. Of these, 217,000 were stored in Cagayan Valley warehouses, with 23,000 already positioned in Batanes. The Department of Health, or DOH, placed the regional offices on alert and declared Code White to ensure the readiness of hospitals and emergency teams. The agency also pre-positioned medicines, hygiene kits, and cleaning supplies worth 36.6 million pesos. According to the Philippine Atmospheric Geophysical and Astronomical Services Administration, or PAGASA's 5 Thursday morning advisory, Inday slightly weakened, carrying maximum sustained winds of 175 kilometers per hour and gusts reaching 215 kilometers per hour. The cyclone was located 925 kilometers east of northern Luzon, moving west-northwestward at 20 kilometers per hour, and is expected to exit the PAR by Saturday.
Pinag-utos ni Pangulong Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. ang buong pwersa ng pamahalaan para sa paghahanda sa Super Typhoon Inday. Sa weather update ng Pag-asa, nakapasok na kaninang umaga pa sa Philippine Area of Responsibility ang super bagyo na namataan sa east of northern Luzon. ang MMDA sa pangunguna ni Chairman Don Artes ay nagsagawa na ng paglilinis sa mga drainage at sa mga daluyan ng tubig lalo na sa mga lugar na punong-puno ng mga basura. Nakahanda na rin ang lahat ng 73 pumping stations ng MMDA para sa malakas na ulan dulot ng habagat na posibleng hilahin ng bagyong Inday. Nagsagawa rin ng iba't ibang paghahanda ang DPWH sa pangunguna ni Secretary Vince Dizon sa Cagayan Valley. Nakapreposition na rin ang kanilang mga kagamitan kagaya ng mga trucks, backhoe, chainsaw at iba pang material na maaaring magamit sa oras ng sakuna. Ang DSWD sa pangunguna ni Secretary Rex Gatchalian ay nakahanda na rin bago pa man pumasok ang bagyo. Sa datos ng ahensya, mayroong mahigit 4.7 million food packs ang nakapreposisyon na sa buong bansa. Sa Cagayan Valley pa lamang, mayroong ng 217,000 na mga family food packs na nakahanda sa warehouses ng DSWD kung saan 23,000 sa mga ito ay nasa Batanes Island. Ang DOH sa panguna ni Secretary Ted Herbosa ay naka-alerto na rin sa mga regional office para paghandaan ang super typhoon. Isang weather alert din ang nilabas na ng Health Emergency Management Bureau sa mga Centers for Health Development. Nagdeklara na rin ang ahensya ng Code 1 para alerto ang mga unit habang nakahanda na rin ang DOH Health Emergency Response Team sa buong bansa at ang pag-deploy ng Philippine Emergency Medical Assistance o PEMAT kung kinakailangan. Binigyan diin ng DOH na naka-standby na ang kanilang contingency plan upang hindi maputol ang serbisyo ng pangkalusugan. Sa datos ng DOH, mayroong kabuuang 36.6 million pesos na halaga ng mga gamot, hygiene kit at mga kagamitang panglinis sa nakapreposisyon sa iba't ibang lugar. Maliban sa mga ahensya ng pamahalaan, si Pangulong Marcos Jr. mismo ay nakatutok din sa lagay ng panahon at sa magiging development nito sa susunod na mga araw. Paalala ng Pangulo sa taong bayan, maging alerto at palaging magbantay sa takbo ng panahon.
That was Palace Press Officer Claire Castro.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the new Ninoy Aquino International Airport or NAIA Infra Corporation or NNIC reported Wednesday that no injuries were recorded and airport operations remained largely unaffected after a Saudia aircraft taxiing for departure struck the tail of a parked Philippine Airlines or PAL Airbus A320 at the NAIA late Tuesday. Passengers of the subsequently canceled Saudia flight SV871 safely disembarked, while PAL confirmed that no passengers or crew were on board its aircraft during the incident. Initial assessments showed that the Saudia aircraft's wingtip made contact with the PAL jet's tail section at low speed. Both planes sustained damage and are now undergoing technical evaluation. The airport operator said no ground equipment or airport infrastructure was affected. A full investigation is underway to determine the circumstances surrounding the incident. This includes reviewing airside communications, aircraft movement logs, and other operational data. NNIC said it is coordinating closely with both airlines and aviation authorities to ensure a thorough and objective inquiry.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service can be heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is also live on audio streaming. Just download Evox PBS Receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our post as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.